Hi there. So today I'm joined with the expert who is Troy Dean, and I was introduced to Troy through a plugin because Troy develops plugins as well as many other things, and I use this plugin without knowing the author. I also, being quite involved in the WordPress community, started to watch WordPress TV, and I started to hear a lot of speakers and to listen to what they say. And one of the speakers was Troy. Now, Troy offers advice and consulting on businesses on how to not only brand themselves and to increase their awareness, but how to get more money for your time and how to stop actually trading your time for money. So a very sought after expert in his area, and all the way from Australia, I would like to welcome Troy. Troy, thank you so much for today.
Hey Steve, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I want to jump straight into the content here for people. I know we don't have much time, and there's a thousand questions I'd love to ask you. The first one is really about positioning yourself. And if you're either building a website as a business and you're a website developer, or if you're building a website for your own business, how would you recommend the things that people could do to position themselves in their industry online? What nuggets can you give them to really put them above their competition?
Yeah, so it's a good question. One of the things, I spent a lot of time at WordPress meetups and at WordCamps, and I just came back from Pressnomics, which is a big WordPress conference in the States. And a lot of the conversations I hear in the hallways and at lunchtimes and around meal times is about the technology. And this applies to, whatever industry you're in. If you're a pet groomer, if you're any kind of technician, if you're a web developer, doesn't matter what you do. I think as freelancers and as small business owners who have some kind of technical ability, we're very comfortable talking about our skill set and our technical ability. So web developers are really comfortable talking about content management systems and plugins and page templates and APIs. Web designers are really comfortable talking about responsive design and grid layouts and user experience and all that kind of stuff. And from my experience, your customer, whether it's a client that you're building a website for, or whether it's a customer that's just buying some widgets or some services off your website, the unfortunate thing is they don't actually care how good you are at what you do. I mean, that's the sad truth of it.
That's the truth.
It is. No one. I spent a lot of time working with accountants, and one of the things accountants love to talk about is taxation compliance and how good they are at crossing the T's and dotting the I's and getting the ledgers to balance. And as I said, the truth is no one cares. No one cares about how good you are at what you do as much as you care about that, and they never will. So what they care about is how what you do can actually help them and make their life easier or give them the outcome that they're looking for. So one very practical example is if you're a designer and first of all, I preface all of this by saying you have to have a blog. You need to be blogging on a regular basis. You need to be putting out good quality, original thoughts and opinions on your industry. So if you're a designer, for example, and you want to publish an article on responsive design, don't talk about responsive design. Talk about how people are using mobile devices to access the internet more and more, and how it's important that websites function on a desktop as it's being used on a desktop, and functions on a smartphone as it's designed to be used on a smartphone. So one example is in the restaurant industry. If you've got a website on a smartphone in the restaurant industry, you better make sure that it's really easy to find a map of where your restaurant is on that smartphone, because most people are going to access your website on that smartphone while they're looking to how to find the restaurant. So the map has to be the number one thing that they're going to use to find where you are. So all of a sudden, we're not talking about responsive design, we're having a conversation about how we can drive more people to your business. And that's what the small business owner is interested in.
I think that's a fantastic concept, and a lot of people that I know, when they start out, they get so excited in the process of creating the content that they sometimes get a bit waylaid and caught up in their own terminology, if you like, and the wording that they use. And I think what you're saying to basically take out of the equation words that you may use and not that people may not understand as well. I mean, I can talk about PHP and CSS and scripting language all day long, but to someone that wants a website, they don't care. They just want a website.
I think as a business owner, the good thing about knowing a little bit about this technology is that you can you can either educate yourself and do it yourself, or when you start talking to designers and developers, you can very quickly get on the same page and start having a conversation with them about, and use kind of the same language. However, having said that, I see a lot. I also just want to go back a little bit about. I think it's on the onus of whatever it is we're delivering. I think it's our responsibility to deliver that and communicate that in a way that makes a lot of sense to our customer or to our client. So one example I see a lot of is WordPress developers blogging about their technical prowess because they might be pitching their services to larger agencies. A lot of freelance web developers service large agencies who do the client work, do the strategy consulting, and then this web developer actually, cuts the code and pumps it out. And a lot of these WordPress developers are blogging about, responsive design and PHP and HTML5 and CSS3 and whatever, flat design, whatever trends are happening. If I was a web developer servicing agencies, I would be positioning myself to show the agency how I can make them look good to their clients. So I wouldn't be using the technical jargon. I would be blogging about how an agency can better sell web services and digital services to their clients. I'd be providing them that kind of support, because I still don't think the agency really cares about the technical side of things. They just need an outcome. They need you to deliver what they've promised their client.
Troy, I think that's amazing advice that you've just given me. Thank you for that. And one thing that when people come to me and they need a website, people often look to things like Elance, Fiverr.com, and there's this expectation now that they can have a website built and they can have it built cheaply. And people say, oh, but it's just a theme and it's just do this and it's just do that. And I've got to the position now where we have to say to people, well, then go and do it. And then when you realise that it's not that simple, come back and we can talk. And one of the things that I'd really like to help to get across to people is what goes on behind the scenes. So the thought process, when you're developing and designing a website, it's not just a case of going onto Elance, going onto something like Theme Forest, getting a theme. There's a lot involved in the design, the branding, the content, and the whole reason for Online Mastery is to bring all of this into one area so people can get that advice.
So the process that I've followed for developing, whether it's my own websites or whether it's websites for clients, is, I kind of just don't care about the technology. Like, the technology takes care of itself. The technology is available, and the technology is just a series of tools that we can pull in to deliver a solution. The process that I go through is the first thing we do is just a series of questions, talking to so if we're developing a website internally, I'll be talking to my business partner. If I'm doing it for a client, we'll be talking to the client, and we'll just be asking them why. Why are we building a website? Why are we going to spend this time, money, energy, effort, resources building this website? What is the point? What's the purpose for the business? What are we trying to achieve? And what's the purpose for our target audience? Who is our target audience? And what are they trying to achieve from the website? So Online Mastery, for example, the purpose for you is positioning you as an expert. The target audience is they want information. They want to learn this stuff. So how do you match your requirement with their requirement? And then what does success look like? This is probably the most important question to ask. If we get this right in 6 months or 12 months' time and it's a raving success, what does that look like? How many subscribers do we have to our blog? How many people have signed up for our newsletter? How many sales have we made? How many unique views are we getting on if you're selling advertising, how many unique views are we getting on our site every month? What are the metrics that are going to make this a success? And then once we've got a really good understanding of that, we go through a prototyping process. So I use Canvas by WooThemes to just mock up a prototype of what the website's going to feel like and all the different elements and parts of it. And that can include a full e-commerce solution as well. We can, mock that up pretty quickly. And then once we get the client to buy into that concept and approve that concept, I then send that to our design team and say, hey, this is what I've just promised our client. Design it. And then the designers design it, we get that approved, and then we develop it onto a WordPress platform. I think it's even if you're developing your own website as a small business owner, I think Canvas from WooThemes is probably the best investment you can make, because when you go and buy a theme from Theme Forest, for example, if you're a small business owner, you get overwhelmed and you get wowed by the bells and whistles and the shininess of the theme, right? Yeah. and you install it and you start playing with it. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to shove your square peg into a round hole. So you're trying to shove your business and your content into this pre-designed theme, which is cool. Sometimes it works, but I think the more strategic approach is to grab Canvas by Woo Themes, which is basically a blank canvas theme with all the functionality you need, set that up with your content, see how it feels, and then based on that, go hunting for a theme that can make it look amazing, or get it designed if you've got the budget. If you don't have the budget, then just get a theme that will bring it to life and make it look great. But at least then you've got a prototype that you can see how it's going to work. You can iron out any bugs. You can see what content you need, and you know, without being distracted by how beautiful it looks, which I think is one of the problems with buying premium themes, is you just get distracted by how amazing it looks on the box. But then when you install it and put your content in there, it looks different. You know, it never looks the same as it does on the box, because, you know, the content that we've got is different to what they used when they put the theme together.
I think this is a classic example when people look at Vistaprint, when they look at Wix, when they look at all of these site builders. I mean, one of the things that I advocate and I use Canvas as well, is to use a framework, is to build, to use a framework, because there is no need to develop from scratch anymore. Unless you have something that is so bespoke, you don't need to. You don't need to spend that time developing the things, because it's already been done by a team of people that dedicate themselves to doing that. So I absolutely agree. Woo and the guys behind it, I know we've got one of the developers for WooCommerce who we're interviewing. So I know that I know the team behind it, and I know how passionate they are, not just about creating the code that people buy, but also just in what they love what they're doing. And by being that passionate about what they do, they go above and beyond what's ever expected. So I definitely think that's a valid suggestion. And I just want to bring it around to one of the things that I first, when I first was introduced to yourself, it was actually in a Canvas framework, because I was building a site for a client, and I was looking for a video tutorial that I could give them. And I developed a plugin. It was my first ever plugin, and I was trying to create a more stripped back dashboard, so that I could put a video in and people could look, because people talk about WordPress, and in my experience, it's like Marmite. People love it or they hate it, and either people will sing its praises and advocate it and say you should never use anything else, or people say you shouldn't touch it. There's no in between. And I like to keep a broad mind that there are other platforms, but at the same time, I've chosen to use WordPress because overall, with Drupal, with Joomla, with all of the other Wix and the other platforms out there, WordPress seems to be the most scalable and the most flexible for me and my clients. And whilst it has that ability to be scalable, there is also a lot of padding that comes with it that I don't think that people need. And I'm just interested into how you got into developing that theme, because when I developed my plugin, I was really proud, and I thought, this is brilliant. And then I discovered your plugin that you created, and suddenly mine was insignificant and didn't matter anymore, because yours just blew it out of the water. And now every single installation that I put out to a client comes with your plugin, with both of your plugins, with white label CMS and with video user manuals as standard. And the reason I have a developer license with you is because it is just such great value to the client. So how did you come into that, and why did you start stripping stuff out? Why the need?
So it's a really good question, and I remember this so clearly. It was a series of brick walls that I hit. So I wrote my first content management system in Notepad when I learned how to write PHP and MySQL, and I just discovered. So I started building a website for a client, and I thought, hang on a second. As soon as I give them this website, they're going to ask me to update it within like a couple of weeks. I know they're a record label representing bands who are gigging all the time, and I'm like, they're going to ask me to update the gig guide and update the photo gallery. That's not going to happen. I don't want to be in the business of updating a client's website. So I'll build I didn't even know what a content management system was, but I'll build a content management system so they can do it themselves. So I built it in PHP, and then I discovered, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to have to teach them how to use this content management system that I built. And that's fine. I did, and I got paid for that, and I factored into the price, and that was all cool. And then they kind of were up and about, and they were using it themselves, and it was pretty cool. They kind of left me alone and did their own thing. And then I discovered WordPress and thought, okay, this is great, because now this is like I can do in like an hour what took me 6 weeks to build. So that's good. However, I'm still going to have to train people how to use WordPress. And as much as I love WordPress, there is no questioning that the onboarding process for a brand new WordPress user is awful. In fact, it's non-existent. There is no onboarding process. So I thought, okay, so I just looked at every single step in the process. What's going to happen? I'm going to give the client a website and tell them to go to, their website.com/wp-admin or wp-login. I mean, that's just stupid. It should just be /login. Right? So let's fix that. And then when they log in, first of all, let's get rid of the WordPress logo off the login screen, not because I'm trying to hide the fact that it's WordPress. And this is a really important distinction to make because we get asked this question all the time. I'm not hiding the fact that it's WordPress. I just don't want to have to answer unnecessary questions. I don't want my client to say, why does it say WordPress? That's not a conversation you need to have. It doesn't matter why it says WordPress. It's irrelevant. So let's just take it off and put the client's logo there so they feel nice and warm and fuzzy about it. And then when they log in, there's all this rubbish on the dashboard, which I kind of get and I understand, but my client doesn't need to see it. They don't care. It confuses them. And again, it's a whole bunch of questions that I then have to answer unnecessarily. So let's just strip all that back, give them exactly what they need, a little welcome video that tells them to go and watch a whole bunch of other videos to learn how to use it. So the video user manuals plugin came out first, and then the white label CMS plugin came out as a freebie to simplify the dashboard, simplify the login process, and just allow us to point our clients straight to the video. So it was really designed to scratch our own itch. And then my business partner's stroke of genius was, hey, let's give away the white label CMS plugin on the WordPress.org repo. And that's been downloaded, I don't know, 170,000 times now. So
congratulations, by the way.
It's obviously, yeah, thanks. Fantastic. It's obviously struck a chord because the onboarding process is horrible. And I was in Pressnomics last week in Arizona, and I went to a football game with a bunch of guys who work at Automatic, and we had this conversation. I spent about 2 hours in a car with these guys chatting about all things WordPress, and we had this conversation quite openly that if you know how to use WordPress, it's easy. But if you put a brand new user in front of WordPress for the first time, the onboarding process, it's terrible compared to any other web app that you sign up for. If you sign up for LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or Tumblr, the onboarding process is pretty smooth and pretty easy to get up and about and start using it. But I think it's a real problem for WordPress, and I think that's why the vast majority of WordPress installations and downloads get aborted within 7 days because people just aren't really sure what they should do with it, and they can't start using it to publish content, so they kind of throw their hands in the air and move on.
And I think this is a very valid point because I see, as do many other people these days, the internet, there's this barren wasteland of websites that the heart and soul has gone into the development and design, and then they just sit there and they don't get touched. And I think there's nothing more unattractive and damaging even for someone's brand to have a blog that's not updated or to have old content on a website. I'd rather not have the content there in the first place than have stuff that's too old. So I think I commend you, and I want to acknowledge you for creating those plugins because you've served a community that needed that gap bridged, and you've done that. And in doing that, it's allowed us to connect, and I'm very grateful for that. So, Troy,
thank you, man.
I want to thank you so much for your time because I really do appreciate it. I'm not sure what the time is because obviously you're in Australia at the moment. What is the time down under?
It's about 9:30 Friday morning.
9:30 Friday morning. Well, Troy, I know you've got a lot to do today. If people want to connect with you, if they want to, and I appreciate you're taking yourself out of the equation, but if they want to find out more about what it is that you do, I know that I'm just signing up for your WP Elevation. So I'm highly recommending that to anybody that needs to get to speak to you. But how would you advise people connect with you?
But on Twitter @Troy Dean is a good way to get hold of me, or just via the WP Elevation website. So that's wpelevation.com. And my Skype details are there. My phone number's there. If people want to hit me up on Skype and have a chat or give me a call, I'm more than happy to
buy you a beer. I'm sure.
Speak. Good on you. Thanks, Steve.
Troy, thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate your time, mate. Cheers.
No worries. Cheers.